delusion. What is delusion? Delusion here does not mean unintelligence. Delusion does not mean that you don't know anything. Delusion here means that a person does not know between wrong and right, good and bad. For example, a delusion here means that a person does not believe in the law of cause and effect. The law of cause and effect is not something that the Buddha created, but the Buddha observed how nature works. The law of cause and effect is always there, and we exercise it every day without using that term, the law of cause and effect. Right? When we go to work, we expect to be paid. You're observing the law of equality, the law of responsibility, the law of cause and effect. So we use it every day. But there are people who don't believe in it, although they use it all the time. There are people who don't believe on the cost of the law of causality, meaning that they cannot distinguish between wrong and right, whether good actions or bad actions. For example, they may think, well, everybody fiddles with their tax returns, right? So they cannot tell the difference between a skillful action versus a non-skillful action. Delusion does not mean that person is unintelligent. Right? You have very intelligent, smart military officer. He knows how to strategize very well, wins and enemies and so forth. But yet, when corruption comes, he cannot stand against that corruption. That's a delusion, because even though he's very smart, but he's deluded. He doesn't know the difference between wrong and right. He doesn't see the consequences behind those actions. So that's delusion. And delusion on the effect, not accepting the effect of the law of causality, is that they don't see the relation between the cause and effect. They don't believe that there is a completely wise person or an enlightened person. They don't believe in sages. They don't believe that there is a perfect being. And so they don't see the connections of cultivation, spirituality that will lead to liberation. They don't see the effect. And so that's delusion as well. They cannot make the connection between the cause and the effect. Delusion also can generate greed. A deluded person will see $1 million to be very important. He believes that $1 million will bring him happiness. But as we learned last time from the principles of money, that having a lot of money is not necessarily a good thing. And only a wise person can recognize that. A deluded person will see, with $1 million, I'm going to be buying nice cars and nice houses and so forth. All he can see is the enjoyment behind that. He does not see the responsibility, the consequences behind money. But a wise person will say, well, with $1 million, what am I going to do with it? If I spend too much, I'm increasing my own selfishness. There are people who live a fine life when they have no money. But once there is a rush of money and all of a sudden they have tons of money, like a lottery or a big contract, they become corrupted. And for some people, they wish that they had never had so much money. Only a wise person will be able to recognize the danger behind that, but a deluded person will not. But we know that living in life, if we have no value, we are at the bottom of this society and people will not respect us. If we want to have value in society, we have to cultivate merits. But if you cultivate merits and karmic rewards come to you, and you refrain from enjoying, that's suffering. You work so hard, you have a lot of money on one hand, on the other hand, you're being told inside your mind not to enjoy it because you don't want to corrupt yourself. So that's a struggle. As we cultivate merits, there will be a struggle. Your karmic rewards come to you. You're now making a lot of money, you have fame, fortune, and so forth. On the other hand, you're telling yourself, I don't want to hurt myself, I don't want to corrupt myself. So there will be a struggle. So how do we deal with this? We know that we need to cultivate merits, because without merits we are at the bottom of society with no value. But we want to have value. But once you have the position of wealth and power, you will encounter that struggle. Correct? So how do you deal with that? Well, in Buddhism, we practice meditation. When you can see the consequences, you are more likely to not do the things that will lead to bad consequences. Before meditation, there are precepts or ethics. Those things will prevent you from doing bad things. And when you have self-discipline, you have meditation. And when you have meditation, it leads to wisdom because you can now see things clearly. You know what's wrong and what's right. And when you know what's wrong and what's right, you're less likely to do what's wrong. And when you don't do wrong, then you are observing precepts. And when you observe precepts, you become more disciplined, your mind becomes more meditative, and you have more wisdom. So you can see the positive feedback. So the more that you observe precepts of ethics, the more meditative your mind becomes, the more wise you become, and you're more likely that you're going to continue to do good deeds. By practicing meditation, we can break away from that struggle because we will not be tempted. But we find joy in our own meditation. We find joy in how we live our lives. Right? We find joy in whatever we do, and we don't have to corrupt ourselves. With meditation, it is a buffer that allows you to cultivate more merits, have more karmic rewards, but without a struggle. We know that there's always a struggle. So for us, we practice Buddhism, we practice meditation to allow us to increase our value as human beings. But at the same time, we are preventing ourselves from being corrupted. We know that living this life, you have to have merits. But having a lot of karmic rewards can lead to danger. By practicing meditation, it provides you that protection, that buffer from being corrupted. Delusion can cause anger. There are people who can recognize their anger and they can neutralize, which is a good thing. They have wisdom because they know differences between wrong and right. But there are people who are smart evil, meaning that they don't show their anger, but they are looking for ways to get back at you. Let's say in a competition, they don't admit their loss and they don't show any anger. In fact, they put up a smile. But after that argument or conflict, they'll get back at you. That's evil kind of way. They don't show the anger. But there are people who are angry. They're smart kind. Of course, the most optimal is to not be angry at all and to neutralize that. But there are people, they have the anger. We all do, but we know how to neutralize our anger. Now, delusion is to show your anger without knowing it. But sometimes it's important to show explosive energy. For example, like you have a kid who's about to put his finger in a fire, about to do something very dangerous, and you have this explosive energy yelling at that kid. You are saving that kid from harming himself. Right? So sometimes it is necessary to have that explosive energy, but it's dangerous because we're walking on a fine line there. Because if we continue to do that without recognizing our explosive energy, then we are leaning towards more and more to that incompatibility of metta, of loving kindness. It's how to overcome these three poisons. When you practice loving kindness, compassion. And when we practice loving kindness, we can practice at work, we can practice at home as well. We show our families when they make a mistake, we show them, we explain the mistake to them as opposed to being angry. And we show them the right way of doing things. Or at work, you can share your knowledge with your co-workers and enable them to be more knowledgeable. And when you show your loving kindness, you are opening yourselves to more opportunities to overcome the three poisons. Compassion can overcome greed. With compassion, you have the ability to give to others. You are more than happy to share what you have. As opposed to take things from others, you give to other people. And only compassionate people will have the heart to do that. Because by nature, everybody wants to hoard things, right? Wants to earn as much, keep as much money as possible. In this environment, in this world, it's almost natural. Why? Because our ego, when you give, you are depleting your resources to maintain your survival. The ego likes to find the most favorable environment with a lot of resources to survive. But when you give, you are going against your nature, your ego, because you're depleting your resources. But only people with compassion are daring enough to overcome that fear. Right? So compassion allows us to overcome our fear. Compassion can neutralize the poison of greed. Compassion can also neutralize the poison of anger. Not only do we not get angry at people, but we can help them, save them, serve them. There are different levels with compassion. One is very ideal, and the one is practical. We have to practice both. But that I mean is, when you are resonated with the ideas of compassion, you say, I have compassion for everybody, all sentient beings. That's theoretical. And you can say that, and you can feel happy about saying that, because it doesn't cost you anything. It doesn't cost you energy. It's very theoretical. But when you say, I can love each and every person that I see, that's more practical, but it requires more energy. The more theoretical one, that love to everybody, is like a mango, a green mango that has not ripened. And when we can rise to the thought of compassion, then we'll be comfortable with carrying it out in action, like words. First, we are comfortable with this idea of compassion. And then we put it into practice. When you put it into practice, it's like a mango that has ripened, that you can eat it and it's sweet. If we can only say, I have compassion for everybody, then that's good, but it's not good enough. Only when we say, I have compassion, I have loving kindness to my brothers, my sisters, my parents, my co-workers, everybody I see, my co-practitioners, that's when compassion has come to fruition. No greed, no anger, no delusion. When we don't have those three poisons, we don't have the mental chaos and mental illnesses. We practice meditation, practice Buddha mindfulness in order to provide a buffer so that we can overcome those challenges and we will not corrupt ourselves.